Hey folks, welcome to the show. I'm putting off the trade deadline videos a bit more, but you can see on my tabs there that I'm still working on them. I just wanted to talk about this video to finish off my series on the trophy rankings, as we're just 20 games out. There's other trophies to talk about, but I figured this is enough. This will be the last one. We're talking about the Jack Adams Award, and I'm going to touch on the GM of the Year award. I'm not going to talk about it too much. This is more about some coaches. So let's get into it. Here are some stats of 12 goalies I think could get some votes, and I'll talk about my picks, which I actually didn't set yet. Usually I like to do it before the video, so there's less. But too late. Here we are. I'm into it. Let's go. This is points percentage first. The S Gen 1 is their points percentage since January 1st. Goals for per game, goals against per game, Fenwick for percentage, so the share of shots on goal that their team had. Shooting percentage, save percentage, power play percentage, penalty kill percentage. So how much do these stats have to do with coaches? Points percentage and since January 1st are really important. Points percentage is obviously the most important stat. The reason I include since January 1st is because some coaches will be given some more nods if they're able to get their team, able to rally their team in time for the playoffs. Goals for and goals against per game are more of a team stat than the coaching stat, but they're still there. Fenwick for percentage is a bit more of a coaching stat, as it is increased based on the coaches' systems, as well as the players. Shooting percentage, save percentage have more to do with the players' talent on the ice, so you can use it as a knock on a coach for having too high or being carried by their goaltending or shooting percentage, or you can say, well, they're shooting high because they have this coach, which also may be true. We'll get there when we get there, as there is a coach I want to talk about there. Power play percentage and penalty kill percentage also have a lot to do with the players on the ice, as do all stats. But those systems are pretty coach heavy as you watch, so I do think that it is a good coach stat at times. Again, there's a coach who I think can get a pass on their power play number. You can probably guess who it is looking at the big red number. But again, let's start from the top. As always, they are ordered in points percentage, not necessarily my rankings. I will rank them at the end, or the top 5 at the end. So the coach who I think could get nods at the top is Chris Knoblauch. He has the best winning percentage of any coach in the league at 74. And it's been 7.58 since January 1st, which is also best in the league. Another best in the league number is the goals for per game at 3.73, whereas goals against has been top 5. If you have a deep blue number, you are a top 5. If you have a light blue number, you are still in the top 50%, just not top 5. And the opposite is true for red. Fenwick for percentage, the Oilers control the play very well under Chris Knoblauch and is top 5 in that area as well. Shooting percentage has been good. Save percentage has actually been top 5 for the Oilers under Chris Knoblauch at 9.11, and the 27.4 is the second best rate of any coach in the NHL right now, or I think it might be third, because the top one isn't on here, which is Tampa Bay, so I didn't put it there, but the color is the same as the other top 2, so I think it's second best. Penalty kill has also been very solid, 83%. So I think he'll get a lot of love from voters because of the points percentage and because of the storyline of the Oilers just not being in a good place when he comes in and the Oilers completely turning it around. This is where I'll put a slight knock on him. Now again, I love Chris Knoblauch, happy he's here, grateful he's here, but if you've watched my Oilers review, you'll know my opinion on Jay Woodcroft and Dave Manson, and that I had high praise for them. And I think a lot of the success the Oilers have had this year is due to Jay Woodcroft. That's not to take away from Chris Knoblauch. It's Chris Knoblauch still kept the systems. That was still his choice to keep the systems and add his own spin. The penalty kill has certainly been fixed under Chris Knoblauch. It suffered a lot under Woodcroft and Manson this year. It was good last year, but a lot of it has been Chris Knoblauch and Paul Coffey. Save percentage, obviously major difference between Woodcroft and Knoblauch, but I'm not sure how much of that has to do with Knoblauch and more the goalies and the goalie coach. But that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say yeah, I think Woodcroft was still a very good coach, as well as Dave Madison as the assistant coach. Firing those two was a shock to me, and I disagreed with the call, but it's hiring Knobloch and Coffey so far has more than made up for that firing, and he has been an excellent coach. I would be surprised if he doesn't get quite a few votes, and he could get number one. I'm not sure if I would, but we'll get there when I get there. Next is Peter Laviolette, who's tied for second with the highest points percentage in the league. The Rangers have been a bit slower since January 1st, but not notably. 6.52 winning percentage, or points percentage, since that date is still pretty good. The Rangers have pretty good numbers all around, but nothing too notable outside of save percentage and penalty kill percentage. This is Laviolette's first year with the Rangers, and it's been one of the Rangers' best years regular season wise for a very long time. Certainly Laviolette will get some credit for that. In a similar story is the Florida Panthers under Paul Maurice. This is the second year under Paul Maurice. Maurice is a longtime coach who has never won the Jack Adams Award or the Stanley Cup. You could call him the league's biggest loser, in coaching history, but you have to be a pretty good coach to have the most losses in NHL history, because it means you're still around after all this time, and he is winning a ton. Second best winning percentage among coaches, and he has the second best winning percentage among coaches since January 1st. The reason I say among coaches is because the Rangers and Panthers winning percentage is higher than the Oilers, but I'm not including Woodcroft's stats under Knobloch's. Maurice's systems have really benefited the Florida Panthers' ability to suppress shots and goals, most importantly, and his players have done it very well. Sam Reinhart has become a very excellent two-way player. Barkov already was. Forsling has emerged as one of the best defensive defensemen in the league, and Ekblad has also stepped up quite well defensively, and a lot of that you can credit on Maurice. It becomes a discussion as well, how much of it is players, how much is the coach. I don't know. You'd have to be in the locker room to know that. And of course, Barkov or anybody isn't going to come out and say, oh, Maurice did nothing, we did it all. Obviously, he's not going to say that because Maurice is his coach. He has probably a good relationship. But Maurice has excellent numbers and has been a great coach for the Panthers. And maybe they win the cup again. Next, Jim Montgomery. He's the reigning champion for the Jack Adams. His numbers aren't as impressive as last year. I was going to include a category for... I'm just going to turn down my music a bit. I was going to include a category for change in points percentage, but I didn't want Jim Montgomery to have a big red number because of how awesome he did that last year, so I figured that wasn't very fair. So I was trying to find a way to measure the team's success versus expectations. I think the Oilers are exceeding expectations slightly. Very much exceeded expectations as of November. Rangers are slightly exceeding expectations, as well as the Panthers. Boston, once again, has exceeded expectations, not to the same extent they did last year, but Bruins are still a very good team. They are relying a lot on their goalies, and I think watching them, Montgomery's systems do help the goalies have a higher save percentage. A lot of it is not controlling the puck, but controlling goals, which is more important. That's why Boston's Fenwick 4% is a little low. Part of it is because they don't have strength down the middle like they used to. Though, again, full credit to Coyle and Zacha for stepping up. But Boston is still a top 5 team in terms of points percentage. Jim Montgomery has the 4th best points percentage among coaches, and I'm sure he'll get some nods as well. Next is Rick Bowness, who has been talked a lot about for really having a tremendous season with Winnipeg. A lot of this has to do with Connor Hellebuyck. And that's probably going to be the number one knock on Rick Bowness. Is like, well, Bowness isn't out there making all those great saves. It's Connor Hellebuyck. And you're right. It is Connor Hellebuyck who's really taken over the league in terms of goaltending and is the number one reason the Jets are having an incredible season this year. But that doesn't mean we can't say Rick Bowness has been bad. At the end of the day, what matters is winning. I'm not sure how many Red Wings players would agree with that who played under Babcock, but I don't think Rick Bowness is Mike Babcock, so we'll say that it's been good, and it has been really good for Winnipeg. It's interesting to see Paul Maurice, when he departed from Winnipeg, he talked about how it was kind of a soul-sucking experience for him. and he goes to Florida and turns around. It's a great story for him, and you feel like, well, that must be a sign Winnipeg needs to tear it down and stuff. Maybe not, because here comes Rick Bowness. This is why there's lots of coach turnover in the NHL. A little too much for a lot of people's opinions, but that's why it happens a lot more in the NHL than others, is because this happens, and I can get into the weeds of that in another video, but we're just talking about coaches who have had an excellent year. Next is another Rick Tocchet. He's been talked a lot about for being number one in the Jack Adams race, and I couldn't blame anybody who says that. He has Vancouver being one of the best teams in the league. Vancouver is contending for the President's Trophy. They probably won't win it, but they are within reach. They have the division pretty much under their control. A lot of it has to do with incredible play from their stars. So this is where the argument comes from is, okay, well, how much of it is their stars stepping up, like Quinn Hughes, Elias Pettersson, JT Miller, Boeser, Demko, and Hronek. They're all having seasons much better. Well, maybe not their best seasons, but it is career best for some of those guys and so on. It's a career best for Boeser, career best for Demko, career best for Quinn Hughes. Maybe not Pettersson or Miller, but it'll be close. So how much of that is just the players stepping up? Well, those players stepped up under Rick Tocchet, and because we can't be in every locker room at once, we're going to say, yeah, it was probably had to do with Rick Tocchet. I'm willing to trust that Rick Tocchet had a lot to do with these players stepping up and performing great, and he does deserve credit for that. The superstars in Vancouver allows Vancouver Canucks to win a lot more than they play. The Fenwick 4% at 50.6 is pretty middling. It's still above 50%, still top 50% in the league, but the Canucks are extremely good at converting when they're given the opportunity, as testified by their league-leading shooting percentage at a ridiculous 12.4%. There is a bit of a knock on the Vancouver Canucks penalty kill, but considering where it's been in the last 2 years, it's very forgivable. Next, Jared Bednar with Colorado. He's a great coach, always has been for a long time. Always has been for a long time. That's not right, but anyways, 3.71 is the best by a team in the league. It's not the best by a coach in terms of goals for. I didn't even mention I was talking about goals for, but I am. He's done excellent for Colorado, and their revival in the last few weeks may get him some extra nods with a top 5 points percentage since January 1st. And the Avalanche they're back. I was kind of like, I like the Avs, so I'm happy for them, but at the same time I was kind of like, well, I kind of wanted to run over you guys, but I guess not. Though the game against Saturday proved a series matchup would be great, assuming Avs don't run us over in the next 2 games. Rod Brind'Amour has been a constant favorite for a lot of Analytics fans for his coaching with Carolina, mainly because Carolina is consistently one of the best teams in controlling the shots. Carolina controls a ridiculous 58.4% of the shots and has one of the league's best penalty kills at 85.8. Brind'Amour's systems and coaching has allowed the Hurricanes to be one of the most efficient teams in the league in terms of all the underlying numbers. But those underlying numbers can be thrown out the window if you're not winning enough. That was a knock on Brind'Amour earlier in the year, but that's not really anymore. He has one of the league's best winning percentages since January 1st at 7.42, and the 6.62 points percentage on the year is still quite respectable and is one of the better numbers in the league. The penalty kill 85.8 does have a lot to do with the excellent defenseman on that team, but you should still credit Rod the Bod there. I'm a little less high on him this year than I have been in past years, but he's still going to get consideration and is still going to be a darling of analytic fans. Next is Peter DeBoer in Dallas. The Stars' offense has clicked like it never has before because of Peter DeBoer's style, as well as the additions made by GM Jim Neal. The Stars own one of the better shooting percentages in the league, but has suffered from some goaltending issues under Jake Ottinger, though Ottinger can, as we know, turn around in the playoffs. Next is Sheldon Keefe, who has been through many fire Keefe chants, but I think he has been a great coach for the Maple Leafs. He's very efficient. He's able to make sure his team is very efficient. But again, as I said, under Rod Brind'Amour, it doesn't matter if you're not winning. and the Leafs have been winning a lot lately. They have a .688 points percentage under Sheldon Keefe since January 1st of this year, obviously, and one of the league's better goals for numbers. They allow a little more goals than wanted. Part of that has to do with goaltending and penalty kill. So I think the team struggles have more to do with the changes Brad Treliving made over the offseason than Sheldon Keefe. But at the same time, if you lose the room, you lose the room. And I was starting to agree with the Sheldon Keefe firing opinion, but that has subsided as well as for a lot of fans, because at the end of the day, is Toronto winning? Yes, they are winning a lot. Now, this is where you say, well, it doesn't matter until you win in the playoffs. You're right, but we're not there yet, so we're just talking about the regular season, and that's how these are voted, I believe. Most awards are, and I assume that's the same for the Jack Adams Coach of the Year and the GM of the Year award. Next is Andrew Brunette. Nashville has done quite well this year, so much better than last year. I'm going to say I feel like Nashville is playing up to their abilities. I think they played below their abilities last year, and part of that I do believe had to do with John Hynes as coach. Though, credit to John Hynes, he's doing well in Minnesota right now, so I'm not going to disparage him or anything right now. But Andrew Brunette has certainly been a better coach for the Predators. It's kind of a nice story since he was there from day one as a player, but that doesn't matter for Jack Adams Award. It's just a nice story. A lot of Nashville struggles have been with UC Saros getting really tired and having a poor start to the year, but he is back in form as he has done the last few years, where slow start, great finish, and he looks like it's going to happen again. The reason I included Andrew Brunette, because I wasn't going to include him just because Nashville's having an exceptional year. It's because of how well they've done lately, and if Nashville can get a playoff spot, he might get a few nods. If he gets a top 3 spot, if he becomes one of the division leaders with the Predators, he will certainly get some votes in my opinion, but that seems really unlikely, as Winnipeg, Colorado, and Dallas are all very far ahead, and all 3 of those teams' coaches have already been mentioned here. But full credit to Andrew Brunette. He's got the Predators rallying for a playoff run when a lot of people felt this would be a retooling season. John Tortorella has the least impressive numbers here at a .559 points percentage since, or on the year, .516 since January 1st. Below average goals for, below bottom 5 shooting percentage, and league's worst power play. But he's included here because, one, I love John Tortorella. I think he's a great coach, and he's my favorite coach. Would I want to play on him? Probably not, but that doesn't matter. Philly has exceeded all expectations. I don't think anybody said, yeah, Philly will be in a playoff spot by mid-March. If you said that, you are one of the most biased Flyers fans ever, or you're from the 1970s or 80s. 90s, actually, they were good in the 90s, and the Flyers have had quite a few good decades, even more recently. But lately, it's just been like this team needs to tear down, and I think they still are, but they are getting the most out of their players and then some. And I think part of that is why they've been losing less lately. It's been talked about, particularly by THG here on YouTube, about how Tortorella's style really wears down players. It absolutely does. It's a very physical, hard-working style, but no coach can bring out a player's hard work better than John Tortorella, and that's why he is such a revered coach, as well as his press conferences and other things. But I love him quite a bit. I think he should get some Jack Adams consideration because of how good Philly has been. Because of Philly's recent troubles, he might have not get his Jack Adams this year. So here comes my opinion on who I think is the top 5. I initially wasn't going to have Chris Knoblauch very high because I felt like a lot of it has to do with Woodcroft. Still mostly Knoblauch. Knoblauch has done more for the Oilers than Woodcroft, obviously. Hopefully I didn't give the opposite impression. But, just looking at those numbers and how efficient the Oilers have been, kind of like, well, okay, maybe he should get a top 3 mention. But he's not number 1. Number 1, I'm going to say, in my opinion, at this very moment, is Paul Maurice with the Florida Panthers. He has that team playing at a efficiency that is just unbelievable. Whether you're just looking at the standings, the stats, or watching the game, you get the same idea. This team is running really well. Second, I think voters will put Chris Knoblauch second because of the turnaround the Oilers have had. But I'm going to go with Rick Tocchet as second. It talks about his strengths already, about just the turnaround Vancouver's had from a team that there was a lot to be depressed about. Not just about prices and living in Vancouver, but the team. And a lot of those worries have subsided. A few of them have creeped up a bit, because that's what the Canucks do. Again, if you watch THG, you'll know he's happy to talk about the Canucks disappointing him. I've made too many Canucks jokes. This is to give them respect because they have had a great year this year. Better than Edmonton. It's true. So Rick Tocchet second after Paul Maurice. Third is Chris Knoblauch. And coming into this, I thought I'd put him fourth or fifth, but I'm going to say third just because those first three numbers are, wow, amazing. And I'm really tempted to put him second, but instead of Rick Tocchet, but I feel like Tocchet has just been a favorite for the Jack Adams all year, and I had to put him in second. So fourth, because you get 5 votes as a voter. Fourth, I'm going to say, I'm not going to put Brendan Moore in fourth or fifth, which is rare for me. I usually would, when I look at it myself, I'd put him in top 5 annually for the last few years, but I'm not going to this year. So I'm going to go with fourth is going to be John Tortorella, for reasons mentioned, and then fifth, Peter Laviolette, because I feel like when your winning percentages that high, or points percentages that high, you got to have a top 5. I feel like a lot of it has to do with the stars rather than the systems, but that's okay as long as you're winning, and they are winning a lot. So, to recap, if it ended right now, the season ended right now, my Jack Adams voting would be, or power rankings you can call it, would be number 1, Paul Maurice out of the Panthers. That would be his first Jack Adams of his very long coaching career. Number 2 in voting would be Rick Tocchet, in my opinion, followed by Chris Knoblauch. And then 4th would be John Tortorella, and 5th, Peter Laviolette. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like if you think I've earned it. Subscribe to be updated on more of this analysis and my preface and handsome voice. Right. Anyways, that's it again. Please comment your thoughts. I'd love to know. And thanks you so much. I've said it twice, maybe thrice already. Anyways, I'll see you when I see you.